So we have this scale, starts on the tonic C, made up of two loops. The right hand does a loop, and the left hand will join in with a very short loop coming back to the C. Up the scale and loop right back. Here's the same scale, this time played with just the right hand. And we know how to do this because we've looked at the crossover. Up the scale and loop right back. Or we can use 4 fingers. 3 fingers, the middle fingers for the upper loop, and then that's bottom loop there with the thumb coming down. Up the scale and loop right back. First song with 4 notes, with 4 fingers. So we go on to 2 songs that has alternate fingering. We have an option. We have the notes in front of us, no fingering, because there are now 3 ways of playing it. Studio position with 2 thumbs next to each other, bouncing ball, bounce so high, watch it bounce to the sky. The crossover method, bounce so high, ball, bounce so high, watch it bounce to the sky. And using the second finger on the C. Bouncing ball, bounce so high, watch it bounce to the sky. I'll play seashell using the 4 fingers. I have an option of 3, I'll choose that one. Seashell, seashell, sing a song, sing a song of sailing ships. Sing it loud, sing it soft. Seashell, seashell, make it long. Section 9 now continues with adding an extra note in the studio position. I will start with the studio position because this whole topic is about studio position. Alternate fingers shows you there are other ways of playing the same notes. We're now going down to A, the 3rd note down from C. Jump around on the ground. Here's a loop going down a lower loop. Time to loop around. Here's the alternate way of doing it. It requires not only a crossover, but now your thumb has to pass under the second finger to get down to the A. So we're doing this little manoeuvre, over, and then bring your thumb and bring it down like this. So the 2 is actually pivoting. It stays as this move and pivots on it. Jump around on the, and then under again, ground. So it passes back under. Time to loop around. Or use the 3rd finger on the C. So you're using inner fingers to come down to the A. Jump around on the ground. Time to loop around. Well, that fingering has been already done with many other songs. So it's back to the studio position to do an upper loop now and then a lower loop with this new note A. The upper loop and the lower loop now, which comes all the way down to the A. So the upper loop is so nice to eat my chocolate cake. Now we diverge a bit here, and this is very optional, very much for we have 5 notes now. A, B, C, D and E. Which means that we can use 5 fingers. Get the little finger working. If you start on the A with a thumb, and work your way all the way up to the E, covering this whole scale starting on the A, which in fact is called an A minor scale. There's the other type of scale used in music, the minor scale. Again, we don't need to know the difference between major and minor. We need to know too many other things to worry about that. So we have a 5-note A minor scale. But that doesn't help us with music that is based on the C major scale. We call this the key of C major. We need to start with the C. So if we have 5 fingers, we have to start with the 3rd finger. The middle C is the 3rd finger. So we have 3, 4, 5 on the top and 3, 2, 1 on the bottom. Now it gets a bit nasty. Because suddenly you start to feel just what it is to play the outer fingers. When it's played as an A minor scale, you don't worry about it. It's one direction. One straight up and straight back down. When it's played specifically on that side, you'll notice the difference. It's so nice to eat my chocolate cake. It's so nice to eat my chocolate cake. Can be played with 5 fingers. Studio position. It's so nice to eat my chocolate cake. Or the crossover technique with a pass under. It's so nice to eat my chocolate cake. Same with Bus is Late. I'll use the studio position for Bus is Late. Bus is late, I am late, running very late. Must get home before it's late to have my chocolate cake. So we've learnt the studio position, we've come down to the note A. We come down one more note, because we've got 3 fingers on the left hand to come down. C, B, A, G. We're coming down to G. Well, what you must realise is that when you come down from the note A, there's no other letter in the alphabet before A. In music, it's G, because our system only goes up to G, and then the next note returns back to A again. So we have the studio position. Thumbs next to each other on B and C, a second apart. And the left hand now is coming down to the G. Here we have staff notes, middle C with the ledger line, middle B with a space just below that ledger line, the A, the second ledger line down, and G now, the space below the ledger line, second ledger line. So we see this order of line, space, continuing all the time, this trend all the way through reading music and reading piano, keyboard. We're going to concentrate now on only the B, A, G. We don't need the C, we just start on the B. Right? We know where the middle C is, next to the 2 blacks. The B is next to the first of the 3 blacks, or next to the C. So we have the notes B, A and G coming down in the studio position. But these 3 notes, B, A and G, can actually be played 4 different ways, using the inner 3 fingers from the studio position, or the left hand middle 3 fingers, just by moving the fingers over slightly, or the right hand can actually come along and play those 3 notes. Inner 3 fingers, middle 3 fingers. It doesn't matter which hand and it doesn't matter which finger you use. The notes remain the same. When you read the staff notation, B, A and G always looks the same. Here it is with Hot Cross Buns. B, A, G, is the same every time you see it. What you do is you decide on your fingering. Will you do it with the right hand? Hot, cross, buns, hot, cross, buns. One up penny, two up penny, hot, cross, buns. We do it with the left hand. Hot, cross, buns. It's the same tune. Mary had a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Or you can do it with the left hand. Here's the inner three fingers. The point is, you're reading the notes, you're not reading the fingering. There's no fingering involved. You decide on the hand, decide on the fingering, and it's an automatic response that you're making. Pussy's in a dreadful state. What are the notes? B, A and G. Which hand plays it? Well, you decide. It's written as if the right hand wants to play it all, but you can overrule this and decide to play it with the left hand. There's no indication. Except, normally you would respond with this as a right hand. But we're going through the notion of notes are not hands and they're not fingering. They're independent. Pussy's boots are on today, thinks it's going to rain today. Pussy's in a dreadful state, it's because his mate is late. Of course, it comes out virtually the same, except I'll play it a little bit faster. No singing, a little bit too fast for my singing. And B, A and G played with alternate fingering. Now we come to a change in the tonal centre. You'll notice as you played Hot Cross Buns and Mary Had a Little Lamb, one note was standing out more than all the other three. You heard this in Hot Cross Buns, the way it came down to this note, the G. It's coming down to the G. Might go up a bit, but it still returns back to the G. Mary Had a Little Lamb will have to wait until the very end before eventually you get to that G, not there. It's just holding out. That G again. Pussy's in a dreadful state. It keeps coming back to the G's every two bars. That's the tonal centre. The end does the trick. That establishes what your tonic note is. The tonic, first note of the scale. We are now going to be playing in the key of G major. Up to now, we've been in the key of C major, the key being the scale. Not these keys. This key is going to be written with a capital K to distinguish it from the piano keys. A key being notes of a particular scale. So, G major now will finish on G, as the scale will show. Starts with G. Here's our micro-study G major scale. Which finger? Doesn't matter. Which hand? Doesn't matter. Or become adventurous and try the alpha fingers. One day I'll have to practice them. Yeah, it's coming. So, the next lot of songs are in the key of G major. The Pieroni pieces tend to start with G, for the key of G, but we can start with B, as in Hot Cross Buns and Mary Had a Little Lamb. Where the hen went to bed without you play a piece in the key of C major, it has a particular pitch. Here's a middle C, C, D, E. So here's butterfly starting on C. Butterfly up so high. Now we come down to middle G and do the same with middle G. And suddenly the pitch is much lower. Butterfly up so high. It's the same piece, same notes. You recognise it, but it's sounding lower. When you change from one key, one scale system, to another scale system, called transposition. All songs that you did in the key of C, with 3 notes, can be transposed into the key of G, just by going down 4 notes. So if you find a particular song, like Pitter Pat, then you can transpose it. Here we have Pitter Pat in the key of C. Pitter pat on my hat, pitter pat, just like that. Now we transpose it in the key of G, go down 4 notes, start on G, pitter pat on my hat, pitter pat, just like that. It's the same tune, the keys changed. Of course, pitter pat was done in octaves, so if you want to do it in octave, you'd have to go down to the low G and play it out. But we haven't got that far. We're just looking at the melody and the melody transposing. So the point is that songs like Pitter Pat, Blackbirds, Jerry Hall, Flying High, Tic Tac Toe, all those songs that we did in the key of C can be done in the key of G just by going down 4 notes, an interval of a fourth. Here's a new one. 4 Legs Has a Donkey to finish off the key of G, 3 notes. 4 legs has a donkey.